Hello guys, my name is Kunle. I am a 3D VFX artist. I was asked to do a brief like a brief overview of how my workflow goes or how I achieve certain things I do. I mostly use Maya, and the compositing software I use is Nuke. So jumping straight to Maya, as you can see, let me put on the master layer and probably go to the perspective view so you guys can see exactly what I have in the scene. Looking into the scene, you can see that we have my boss. Yeah, the model of the boss, which was I actually did the model of this last year. That was before I joined Animation West Africa. Then I posted this, I think sometime some weeks back. But I was getting a lot of um, suggestion to actually composite this bus into a real Lagos street. So I decided, well, why not? So let me just get on with the project. So I'm looking at the scene. I have my bus, then I have my image plane. So basically, the way this works is you create an image plane from either your camera view or using this button over here, image plane. So when that is created, and you have to make sure it was created like in a camera view. That means you have to be looking into your camera to create the image plane. So when that is created, the next thing to do, or the next thing I do, is create a plane to represent the ground plane and use my camera manipulation to actually align that plane to match the perspective of mostly I use very straight element that has good vanishing point in the particular backplate. That's the picture. For example, here is the small walkway. Yeah, the walkway beside the road. So there's a good vanishing point going on here. So I actually use my ground plane to make sure that aligns, so that whatever we place in the scene also aligns with the perspective of all objects in the scene. So going about this, I have my boss placed in the scene already. So I decided to place the boss at the back of the tricycle. As you can see, let me put that in a wireframe view. So you can see the boss is actually at the back. So what we have here is just representation purposes only, because I am not going to be rendering out of Maya like this. This is just for placement and scaling purposes. That's why I have render layers, and I hope you guys know what the render layers are, because I might not be going into details. But basically, render layers are like layers you create to render specific parts of your scene. That means you can render part by part, ignoring certain other elements. It's just a good way of managing especially complex scenes, or different components of your scene so that they can be later composited in an external compositing software like Nuke or Photoshop. So in going straight or going to my right, you can see the tab for render layers. Actually, to get there, you have to be on the channels layer editor. As you see me clicking, then under there you see display, render and animation. So you go straight to render layer and you can see all my render layers. I actually have a total of 3. So the last one was disabled, which I really didn't not need at the time. So here you can see they have a master layer, a beauty, ambient occlusion, shadows. So what this does is the master layer contains everything in your scene and it's more like a default render layer. You can't delete this. You can do mostly editing and every other thing in your scene under the master layer. So the beauty layer, as you can see, contains only my boss. So every other thing is disabled. It's just the boss. We call it the beauty pass. So this is going to be composited into our backplate in the external application. Then next is my ambient occlusion. As you can see, I included the ground. That was the major difference between the ambient occlusion and the beauty. The beauty contains only the boss with my light. Yeah, that's very important, with your light. Then ambient occlusion doesn't need light, but I need the ground plane because I'm trying to create the contact shadow. Yeah. Then the next is the shadow. My shadow render layer, as you can see, it includes the light, the boss and the ground plane. And what this render layer basically does is just to get my shadows. That means when I click render, for example, if let me show you guys what this looks like. Test, let me go to 10%, so our rendering will be very fast. If I go to shadows and I click on render, you can actually see exactly what this is going to show me. Basically it will to come out black. Yeah, it appears nothing happened, but when you go into our alpha channel, you can see this whitish yellow on the ground. That is actually an alpha that cuts out every other thing in the compositing software. So when we get into the compositing software, you actually see that these white areas are where our shadows are, and that's only where it's going. That's only what's going to be visible in that particular layer, which is good and what we want. So if I minimize this and go to my ambient occlusion and do a render of this, you can see, oh, we are in an alpha channel, that's why it's showing this. You can see, if we go back to our RGB, you can see what it looks like. Everything is pure white. Then the areas where there are like objects occluding each other, we have this dark shading going on. So that's what's going to be simulating our contact shadows and all. So the next render layer we have is the beauty. So if I click render, you can see actually that's only our boss against a black background. Actually, we won't say black background because there's actually an alpha for this. So this is only our boss, the black background. But when we are compositing this,